morning, friends. Greetings and welcome to The Bright Side, your nutritional program dedicated to the understanding of the vast world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. I'm your host, Pharmacist Ben, nutritional pharmacist from Boulder, Colorado. I use nutritional supplements in my practice rather than toxic pharmaceutical drugs and sometimes deadly medical procedures. If you suspect that there are natural nutritional roads to your vitality and health and well-being and to addressing your health challenges, whatever they may be, but you don't know where to begin, you have come to the right place. As you listen to The Bright Side every day, you are more and more in control of your body, you are more and more knowledgeable, and you know you can overcome any health issue. That is why we are here every day on The Bright Side, helping clear up the sometimes confusing world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. Over the last 29 years of practicing pharmacy, I have seen drug-free recoveries from diabetes and hypertension and obesity and skin diseases like psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, acne, digestive ailments, autoimmune issues of all kinds. Recoveries that by the standards of modern medicine can only be called a miracle. But what is in the world of the body, what is in the world of biology, standard operating procedure. Because the human biological system is a healing system. It's a regenerating system. It is designed divinely to heal and renew itself on a moment-to-moment basis. And while some folks may call that healing, renewing, regenerating system a miracle, it really is just the way the body works. If you have questions about health or nutrition or prescription drugs, we are your go-to resource, and we want to hear from you at 844-236-6010. If you have questions about the longevity products, longevity business, if you want to wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program, we can help you. 844-236-6010 is our number on the Bright Side. If you want to purchase any of the longevity products that you hear recommended on the program, or if you want to join the Bright Side Ben team, love to have you on my team. We can help spread the word. You and I can help spread the word about the power and importance of a good nutritional supplement program, and you can make some money. You can get your products at the wholesale price too. Head over to brightsideben.com or pharmacistben.com or criticalhealthnews.com. You can sign up right from the websites. You can purchase products right off the websites, or you can call the phone team at 866-735-2470, 866-735-2470. And if you want to purchase any of our skin health products, Truth Skin Health products, including our retinol 5% gel, without preservatives, without fragrances, just the retinol, just the good stuff, folks. Just the retinol and the vitamin C with a little bit of transdermal delivery chemicals, matrix. I call it my transdermal delivery matrix to increase the penetration, to increase the depth that the retinol and the vitamin C get to. You know, the action on the skin is not on the surface. If you can feel your skincare product on the surface of your skin, it ain't doing nothing, folks. You may get a nice feel to the skin, perhaps, as the surface of the skin is softened, but you're not going to get any long-term effects if you feel your product on the surface. That's why you want to massage a good skincare product. You need to massage into the skin. You want to get deeper into the skin. We facilitate that penetration with our transdermal delivery matrix, which is in our Truth Balm, as well as our retinol 5% gel. You'll also see our Truth Serum and our omega-6 healing cream, all at truthtreatments.com, truthtreatments.com. Okay, so we have been talking about drugs, the pharmacomedical model, the model of disease, the modern medical model is what I call it, which is a term that was coined by a guy named R.D. Laing, L-A-I-N-G. He was a psychiatrist. He wrote an essay back in the early 1970s, and he was the first person to come up with the term modern medical model, or he called it the medical model. I call it the modern medical model, and his definition of the medical model involved a lot of the stuff that we rip on every day on this program. Diagnostics, for example, diagnoses. In fact, the medical model, as defined by Dr. Laing, involved diagnosis and normal. I call it norm and name because it presupposes that there's a normal way that the body should be, and when it's not normal, doctors name how it's not normal, and then you get billed for it. That's the idea of diagnostics. That's the only reason why diagnostics are important as far as medicine goes. You don't get better by being diagnosed. You don't get better if you know that your problem is in your brain or your ear or your bones or wherever it is. That's because the body breaks down as a system. The body is a system. This notion of systems is only 50, 60 years old. You know, the medical model of diagnosing and naming and drugging is really eons old, but it didn't get going in a big way until the middle of the 19th century when we figured out how to make chemicals. This was the birth of the modern medical model. The medical model, as Dr. Lang described it, is millennia old. It's since Sumeria, since Babylon, when doctors would see something that wasn't normal and then they name it. But the modern medical model really began in the middle of the 19th century when we figured out how to use drugs, how to make drugs. Not just use them. They were always been used as herbs, but how to make them. And then they figured out how much profit margin was there, and the model got nailed into place, and it ain't going nowhere. It is entrenched because of all the money that's in it. You know, chemicals are cheap. Nutrition's expensive compared to chemicals. Drug chemicals, unbelievably cheap. When you talk about profit margins, pharmaceuticals are the ultimate profit margin winners. You're talking thousands upon thousands of percent in profit margin. This is why the Rockefellers got involved. And if you want to read a good book on the Rockefellers and pharmacy, or pharmaceuticals, I should say, get a book called The Drug Story by Morris Beall, Bealle. Anyway, once they figured out how much money was in this thing, the model got nailed into place, and it ain't going nowhere. Even though today, over the last 40 or 50 years, anyway, since maybe the post-World War II, we've learned that the body's a system. We've learned about systems. There's a division of physics, a school of physics, if you will, or a part of physics called systems theory. Systems theory is high-tech physics. It's the physics of how systems work. And it says that a system is a device, or it's an entity that's made up of many parts that are all interactive, where you can't take one part out without changing the system. The body is such a system. You can't take one part out. You can't drug a part. You can't emphasize a part in your medical treatment without affecting the whole system. That's system. That's part of systems theory, which is part of physics. Quantum physics told us the same thing. You can't start manipulating parts without affecting the whole system. This is how drugs work. This is how medicine works. It takes out parts. That's why doctors think it's okay to take out your gallbladder, because they don't know it's part of the system. Or they know it if you told them it was, but it hasn't. The impact of it hasn't really hit home. So they think it's okay to take out a uterus. Oh, you don't need that silly little thing. They don't know that your uterus is connected to your breast, and it's connected to your blood, and it's connected to your liver, and it's connected to the entire system, to your brain, to your stomach, to your intestine. You're going to mess everything up. This is why, you guys, you can't just take out an organ. You can't just take out an organ. And I know we rip on doctors, but this is our responsibility. If your doctor says to take out an organ, you better think long and hard about the future impact, even if it seems like it's just your silly little gallbladder. The ultimate example of the dishonesty, the rip-off, the anti-humanity nature of the pharmacomedical model are these new anti-diabetes drugs. I don't want to say the ultimate example, but a classic example. Have you noticed this explosion in anti-diabetic drugs? Drug companies are just tripping all over themselves because of all the diabetes that's out there. So now you got a new class of drugs, Invokana. I just pick on Invokana, but there's actually 3 of these drugs in this new class of drugs. Invokana just really irritates me because of their commercial, Love Your Numbers, which is just in your face about this idea of loving your numbers. Who cares how you feel? It's about your numbers. Most anti-diabetic drugs work with insulin. They'll stimulate its secretion. They'll make cells more sensitive to insulin. Insulin, we said, is a garage door opener. It opens up cells so that nutrients, especially sugar, can get into the cell. This is how the body works. This is how cells work. It's all about the cell, and the cell needs to be fed, and sugar is a food for the cell. And so insulin opens up the garage door in a cell, the sugar gets in. When we have insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, the garage door opener doesn't work and the sugar builds up in the blood. The importance of insulin is it'll lower blood sugar. So insulin has to be sensitized, has to be sensitive, has to work, because the sugar has to go from the blood into the cell via the garage door. All right, we'll finish up when we come back from our break. 844-236-6010 is our number. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back right after this.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
on the bright side. Pharmacist Ben here. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific and 10 to 11 Central Time, 24/7 on our archive pages, brightsideben.com and benfuchsarchives.com. And, of course, you can check out my blog and the longevity products at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com, and our skin health products at truthtreatments.com. Okay, 844-236-6010 is our number, and we do have lines open for you. If you have questions about health, nutrition, or prescription drugs, if you're on a med, if you're on a blood sugar medication, if you're dealing with diabetes or blood sugar issues, and by the way, you don't have to have an official diagnosis of diabetes to have messed up blood sugar. I would venture to say the vast majority of Americans do have problems with blood sugar, even if they're not officially diagnosed as a diabetic. The official designation of a diabetic, as we've said, with all diagnosis involves statistics and numbers and actuarial tables, and really isn't indicative of whether or not our blood sugar is being controlled or not. So you can pretty much rest assured if you have a little belly going on where you never had a belly before, or if you have perhaps some blood pressure issues, or if you have eczema or you have psoriasis or you have any kind of chronic degenerative disease, you can pretty much rest assured that you got a blood sugar problem. And all the strategies we talk about, eating less food, caloric restriction, fasting, using your B vitamins, using your Beyond Tangy Tangerine, using your Sweeties, using Fucoid Z, eating more fiber and veggies, drinking more water after meals. These are all wonderful, awesome strategies for lowering blood sugar that will benefit diabetics, official diabetics, and non-official diabetics, which is most of us. Alpha lipoic acid is used as a drug to control blood sugar in Europe. You have to go out of your way to get alpha lipoic acid in the health food store, 400 milligrams a day. Vitamin E, we've talked about that for lowering blood sugar. Vitamin C can help lower blood sugar. I mean, there's just so many ways. Magnesium, selenium. It's nearly endless. Sulfur, MSM. It's nearly endless, the strategies we have for lowering our blood sugar, and, of course, not eating the sugar. Nobody sprinkles sugar on our head from the clouds. Blood sugar is an eating issue. Yet we have this unbelievable bombardment of nonsensical medical information, pharmacomedical information, and pharmacomedical products that we're supposed to buy to lower our blood sugar. Latest is Invokana and a couple of drugs like Invokana. It's high-tech, super-duper high-tech. Most drugs work with insulin. Most of the drugs work to improve the sensitivity or the effects of the garage door opener. The latest way doesn't involve insulin at all. Actually, other drugs involve the intestine. Some of them will keep carbohydrates in the intestine, so you'll eat your carbs, but they won't get into your blood. You'll excrete them. The latest way, though, that's the Invokana way. That affects the kidneys, which is the organ that's responsible for dumping sugar out of the body, or not. The kidneys control how much sugar will be in the blood via either eliminating the sugar from the blood or sucking it back up. Remember, sugar is important stuff. So over the course of evolution, we developed these mechanisms for sucking sugar back up into our blood, not losing it, not urinating it out, because there wasn't any sugar on the African savanna. So if you had a little sugar, the body conserved it. This is the brilliance, the utter, unbelievable, mind-blowing brilliance of the human body. It has evolved a system to conserve things that it thinks are not around. Well, it doesn't know the last 200 years to the body. That's nothing. That's like a minute. That's like a second to the body. So the body has these mechanisms in place for sucking sugar up. It's called resorption. It sucks sugar back up into the blood from the kidneys. Well, drug companies got the brilliant idea. They're like, okay, well, what if we stop that resorption from happening? What if we poison the kidney? This is how drug companies think. And they never call it poison, of course. They call it inhibiting. That's the kind way of saying, it's a euphemistic way of saying poison. So they said, oh, let's see, glucose, sugar is dumped out in the kidneys. It's sucked back into the kidneys, into the blood from the kidneys. So maybe if we do something to that little junction where the sugar gets sucked up and keep it from getting sucked up, maybe we can lower blood sugar. And of course, you can. That's what happens. But you can't do it nicely. You got to poison the kidney. This is how these new drugs work. This is how Invokana works. There's 3 of these drugs, Farxiga, Jardiance, and Invokana. And you see them just pounded. We are pounded with commercials for these things, which are darn expensive. Jardiance, Invokana, Farxiga. Of course, your insurance company will pay for it. The government will pay for it. But the drug companies, they're drooling over this financial windfall. And that's why we get these commercials. You cannot go an hour on TV without seeing a commercial for either Farxiga, Jardiance, or Invokana, which is the one that just gets my goat the most. So it poisons the kidneys. It forces them to dump out sugar. For millions of years, we didn't have sugar, and the body evolved a system for sucking it up. Well, Farxiga takes care of that. Reading from the package insert, I should say Invokana. This is a package insert of Invokana. Invokana is, and this is what they call it now, an S inhibitor, technically a sodium glucose cotransporter 2 inhibitor, SGLT2 inhibitor. I'm going to call it an S inhibitor or a kidney inhibitor. It inhibits the kidneys from sucking the sugar back up. Now remember, diabetes affects the kidneys. If you have diabetes, you have blood sugar problems, it's not very long before you're going to have a kidney problem. In fact, the number one cause of kidney disease is diabetes and blood sugar problems, even if you're not diagnosed, because sugar caramelizes things, and it caramelizes tiny little vessels. The worst things that can, the most significant things that can get caramelized, and just think of caramel, chewy, sticky caramel in your mouth. You know, the stuff that sticks in your teeth, that's the stuff that's in your blood over time, and that obviously mucks up the works. You know, there's an old joke about, or not a joke, but an old wives' tale that when you're mad at somebody, you put sugar in their gas tank. Well, it's the same idea. Sugar destroys things. Little bit you need, small amounts you need, but lots of it destroys things, especially destroys small blood vessels in the eyes. That's why eye disease and diabetes go hand in hand. Blindness and diabetes, glaucoma and diabetes, cataracts and diabetes. The tiny blood vessels in your fingers and toes and your extremities, that's called neuropathy. Nerve pain associated with breaking up of these blood vessels. Diabetes is a cause of amputation of toes and fingers and hands and feet. And the tiniest blood vessels of all, or maybe the tiniest blood vessels of all, in the kidneys. So you got a disease that affects the kidneys. Now you're going to take a drug that affects the kidneys. Who came up with this idea? Why? How can a medical professional think this is okay? You got a blood sugar problem which affects the kidneys, so now you're going to take a drug which especially shuts down or inhibits kidney function. Oh, but you're going to block your glucose. That's true. Your glucose is going to be dumped out. You know, you're going to block resorption of glucose, sure. But now what? What's the next step? And not only, by the way, is kidney damage going to be a problem, but now you've opened up this entire Pandora's box of other side effects. By messing around with the resorption process, the sucking up of sugar process, you're going to lose other things, because resorption of minerals is important too. It's not just sugar that gets resorbed. Calcium gets resorbed. So as you're losing sugar, you're going to be losing calcium. This is one of the side effects of these kinds of drugs. Loss of calcium, bone fractures, kidney stones, fatigue, depression. Did your doctor tell you that if you're on Invokana? Well, it can't help but happen because you can't. It's a system. The kidney is a system. You can't just knock out one little piece of it. You're going to knock everything out. So not only will you not be resorbing glucose, but you're not going to be resorbing calcium either. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. I'm going to finish up when we come back from our break, and we'll get your calls too. 844-236-6010 is our number.
More.
Welcome back to The Bright Side. Pharmacist Ben here. 844-236-6010 is our number on The Bright Side, and we do have a fully open board for you. If we don't get any calls, I got a ton of letters here that I've been meaning to read. 844-236-6010 is our number. If you have questions about the longevity products or diabetes, which we're talking about here, anti-diabetic drugs. If you're on an anti-diabetic drug and you want to get off of it, or if you have a question about the longevity business, or if you have a success story, or if you want to contribute to the conversation, 844-236-6010 is our number. If you've used any of our Truth Treatment products, love to hear from you. What'd you think of our retinol gel if you've used that? I know I've sold hundreds of those things since we started selling them on April. It'll be a year. If you've used the retinol or any of the Truth Treatment products, love to hear from you. 844-236-6010 is our number. So Invokana, Farxiga, I don't even know how they come up with these names. That's an interesting Somebody should look into that. I have never been able to figure out how they come up with the names. Farxiga, Jardiance, and Invokana. There's the latest S inhibitor drugs. They inhibit S, which is an element of the kidney that dumps out glucose, or absorbs glucose, I should say. And by inhibiting it, glucose gets dumped out. But so do other things. That's the problem. You can't just target one thing. The dirty little secret of all medicine. You can't just target one thing. The dirty little secret of all drug medicine. You can't just target one system. They call them side effects. They're not side effects. They're effects. When they call them side effects, that makes you think that they're like a little oopsie, that's just a little thing that you get on the side. No, it's an effect. It's not a side effect. It's an effect every bit as much as the effect you're looking for, because drugs affect things. They create changes in the system. You can't just have a drug that affects one system. So with Farxiga and Invokana and Jardiance, these S inhibitor drugs, your body will dump out glucose, but guess what? It's also going to dump out calcium. And that's why bone fractures are a major side effect. Not to mention the fact that now you're toxing out the kidneys, which is one of the major targets for sugar toxicity. That's why if you look in the package insert, it'll tell you right in the package insert, and we should all be reading the package inserts if we're going to be taking drugs. Everybody needs to be reading the package insert if you are going to take a drug. It'll tell you right in the package insert that it's going to, where is it here? Invokana increases serum creatinine, that's a measurement of kidney damage, decreases the filtration rate, that's a measure of kidney damage. It decreases kidney function, and you're already a diabetic. This is the nonsense, the craziness of this model of drugs. Oh, there's more. So your calcium, and this is absurd, your calcium, it causes an increase in the loss of calcium because you're losing glucose and you're losing calcium together. That affects stone formation. So now you got to deal with kidney stones. It's going to make you more tired and fatigued. Your cells aren't going to work as well. And now you got low calcium, so your parathyroid hormone, which senses calcium in the blood, now your parathyroid hormone is going to go up, which in turn is going to lower vitamin D, and that causes another whole slew of problems. Heart disease, autoimmune disease, cancer. And your calcium might go up, but your potassium, you're going to end up with elevated potassium too, because potassium is balanced with calcium. So now you're going to be at risk for they call it hyperkalemia, too much potassium. You got all of these problems. They're all tied into things. You can't just take a drug and not expect to get other things happening. Oh, and with your elevated parathyroid hormone, now you're going to be at risk for potassium or phosphate deficiency. That can lead to depression. And that can lead to a problem making ATP, which is involved in energy. This is all from just one drug. And when you're low energy, by the way, you may crave sugar. So in this weird, indirect way, when you take your Invokana to lower your blood sugar, you're going to crave sugar via all of these other things that happen in association with the body dumping out glucose. It sounds ridiculous. I know. It sounds confusing. It sounds like a big mess. And it is a big mess. That's what happens. It's a big mess to the body. It's bad science. But we're not told this because of the billions, trillions of dollars in profit margin that are to be made here. But who's responsible ultimately? We are. And we can take control of this whole thing. You don't need a diabetes doctor. It's not like we're condemned to diabetes. It's a lifestyle issue. All right, 844-236-6010 is our number. We'll finish up talking about blood sugar, and I'm going to get into some stuff about inflammation. I'm going to talk about the lymph a little bit. We haven't talked about the lymph in a while, and that's involved too. The lymphatic system is your circulatory system for fats and for fatty vitamins, and super duper important when it comes to disease, also for steroid hormones. We started off this whole discussion talking about steroid hormones and vitamin E. And so much to talk about. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. Melody, welcome to the bright side. What's going on?
Hi, Ben. Good morning. I had a question. It's for a family member. It's regarding my brother. He, when he was 5 years old, he's 36 now. When he was 5, he stopped talking. So he's been diagnosed as autistic. And he doesn't really talk. He doesn't communicate very well. So I'm his caregiver, and I wanted to know specifically diet and supplement dose.
Sure.
He's on the Healthy Start pack. He's
Is
on
he
the
definitely autistic? I'm sorry, hang on just 1 second, Melanie. Is he definitely autistic? Do you know that for a fact?
No.
Okay.
That's what they don't know what he has. They don't know what happened.
Okay.
And, so I'm taking care of him.
Okay, well that's an interesting job. Are you getting paid, or are you just doing this voluntarily?
No, I mean he lives with us, and so
that's
he's
pretty awesome,
great.
Melody.
Yeah, he's very low maintenance. I mean, he goes to the program. He's pretty happy, but he's emotionally disconnected and he can't talk. So I know he's got issues because of the symptoms.
Any other issues aside from being mute or not talking? Are there any other issues, health issues?
Well, physically, yeah, he used to have a lot of asthma, and that's been, he really doesn't have that anymore. I really changed his diet, like the no sugar. He does
awesome.
like soups. I cook a lot of
awesome.
I took him off of like very low carb. He's on the Healthy Start pack.
Nice
stuff, but I just don't think he's getting enough of what he really needs, and it's more like of a dosage thing.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit.
That's what I really need help with.
Okay. First of all, for anybody out there listening, and also for you, Melody, there's a really neat book on autism and the digestive system called The Gut and Psychology Syndrome. GAP, and some people call it the GAPS diet. Dr. Natasha Campbell, I believe is her name. And it's an awesome book about the link between the digestive tract, the intestine specifically, and the brain in autism. So autism needs to be regarded first and foremost as a food issue, digestive issue, food allergy issue. Secondly, autism is kind of an interesting diagnosis. What is it really? There are some symptoms like disconnection, and sometimes kids are mute, or there's violent behavior. There's sensitivities, emotional sensitivities that are associated with autism. But I'm not sure it's something that needs to be medically treated. However, from a nutritional standpoint, you want to think about those two systems if you want to deal with it nutritionally: the digestive system and the brain. All right, digestive system, that means all the things that you're doing: low sugar. Look for food digestive intolerances and eliminate them. I didn't hear you say probiotics. I assume he's on one of the probiotic supplements. If not, he should be. A nightly essence, 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, 3 at night. Fermented foods, if you can get him to do fermented foods, awesome. All fermented foods. Get a book called The Art of Fermentation, author named Katz, K-T-Z. Great book. And there's a ton of other things. Hang on, because we've got to take a break, Melody. Okay. Don't go away. We've got a few more things to say. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. All right, we're back on The Bright Side. 844-236-6010 is our number. Got lines open for you. We're talking to Melody in California about autism. So 2 places you want to work, Melody, are the brain and the gut. You sounds like you're doing a lot of things already with the ketogenic diet. You said the ketogenic diet or the low sugar diet?
No, it's not. Yeah, it's low sugar, low carb, and mostly like liquids. Like you said, it's less amount of stress on his digestive system.
Good for you.
He's very lean.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter how much I feed him, he doesn't put on any weight. So that's why I think there's something going on in his gut.
Then do the whole food diary thing. And I don't know how close you are to him, but have him check his bowel movements. That's your best indicator of what's going on in the gut. There's a lot of problem. Autistic kids, anyway. I don't know. I can't say the same thing for autistic adults, but autistic children classically will have all kinds of bowel movement, gas, digestive issues, cramping, bloating. It's pretty classic. So do the food diary thing, or have him pay attention to his foods. Let him know that there's a link between his foods and specific digestive symptomology, and then you're going to eliminate those foods. Of course, dairy and grains are always the first 2 things to think about, but it could be anything. Even vegetables can do it. Probiotics, fermented food, extremely important. Fiber, extremely important. Make sure he's using the nightly essence and the Fucoid Z, which can be very helpful. 9 capsules of each, 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, 3 at night of each. Fucoid Z and nightly essence. Enzymes can be very helpful for autism. Digestive enzymes, because a lot of the problems associated with the food inflammation and food and symptom link, where we eat foods and then we have inflammatory problems or autistic problems, has to do with foods not getting processed correctly because of enzyme deficiencies. So using digestive enzymes can be very helpful for folks dealing with blood issues or blood toxicity issues from food, leaky gut syndrome. You break up the foods with that, and this is especially important for autoimmunity. It doesn't get talked about anywhere near enough. Yeah, we talk about the foods, the link between foods, leaky gut syndrome, food particles getting into the blood inappropriately, initiating an inflammatory response. We talk about that a lot. But what we don't often say is that enzymes can help, whether you're taking them in the ultimate enzymes or whether you're getting them in food enzymes, veggie enzymes. Digestive enzymes can be, you can improve the way your enzymes work by eating enzyme-rich food, sprouts, fresh vegetables, vegetable juices. Love veggie juices. You got to drink them fresh. And you don't need anything fancy. Not V8 I'm talking about here. I'm talking about making your own veggie juices. And you don't need anything fancy. Just a Ninja, one of those Ninja machines or a Vitamix where you just drop some celery and some beet in with some water and some salt and spices. Boom. You got a delicious veggie juice. And if you heat it up, you got a veggie soup. So that's another thing to do.
Celery, beets, what other?
I don't even want to tell you because I want you to do it yourself. But personally, what I like to do is celery. Combinations can be very interesting. So I always combine celery with cucumber because celery has a little edge to it, a little bitter edge to it, and cucumber has a little sweetness to it, and the cucumber balances out the sweetness. And then if I throw a little half a tomato in, I find that the acid from the tomato has a neutralizing effect on some of the bitter flavor as well. So between tomato, and you have to see where you like. Everybody's got their own taste. Between tomato, cucumber, celery, and then I like to put a little beet in there because a little sweetness. Between those 3 or 4 veggies, you can have great veggie juice. And always use salt and spices, as I say, in water. Super important for the digestive tract. It's filling. It's a great diet, a great way to lose weight. And the flavors from the spices and the salt are super delicious. Salt is very energizing, especially if you're low salt. And then there's the brain connection. B vitamins are your brain vitamins. Think B for brain. B for building, B for brain. They're your building vitamins and they're your brain vitamins. B vitamins deficiency is extremely common because we urinate them out. And they haven't talked about, we were talking about calcium excretion with Invocana. You may lose your B vitamins with that stuff too, just as an aside. That's a little digression there. That's not for you, Melody. So B vitamins, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, keep him on that. Maybe double his dose. See how he does with the double dose. Go functional. Functional dosing is when you take as much as you need. That means if you take, say, a teaspoonful in water and you notice great results, and then you do a teaspoon and a half in water and you notice even better results, and then you do 2 teaspoonfuls in water and you notice still better results, and then you notice you do 2.5 teaspoonfuls in water and you notice less results or no difference, you'll know that you need to be right around that 2 teaspoonfuls per bottle of water area. It's called functional dosing. Does that make sense, Melody? Keep upping?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
do function.
And then one other thing, what about the EFAs? Because
I was about to say. I was about to tell you.
I know how much he needs of that.
Absolutely. I was about to tell you. So B vitamins, and then vitamin C probably will help in the electrolytes. You'll get those from the veggies. But then there's the whole fat component, and that's the fatty vitamins. And that's essential fatty acid. Vitamin E is a brain vitamin, in addition to being other things too, but it's a brain vitamin. But the brain's a fatty organ. So vitamin E protects the brain. We talked about it earlier for Alzheimer's, or last week, I should say, for Alzheimer's, but also for autism, for other brain issues. And then omega fats, absolutely indispensable. And vitamin A, also very important. Vitamin D and vitamin K, don't ignore them. But especially vitamin E, vitamin A, and essential fatty acids, omega-3 especially. So that's your ultimate EFAs. Just your Healthy Start Pack. Throw in the nightly essence, as well as the Fucoid Z, perhaps the ultimate enzymes, and then the ancillary nutrients like the E and the A that we just talked about, and then the whole dietary thing with the juices and elimination diet. I want to take a couple more calls here, Melody. Thank you so much.
Okay, just a quick question. How much of the vitamin E and the A?
400 IU on the vitamin E, 20,000 IU on the vitamin A is where I recommend you be.
Okay, super. Thank you.
Thanks, Melody. Bye. All right, Jennifer in Texas. Welcome to the bright side. Jennifer? We have Jennifer. And some problems with our phones here. Jennifer. Okay. Well, if you're there, Jennifer. All right, I'm going to let Jennifer, I can't hear you. I don't know if you're talking to me, but I don't have any calls, so call back. Try again. Jennifer? Jennifer's gone. All right, well, that's it. Hey Jennifer, if you're listening to the program, call back because I got no calls and I got a couple minutes. But I do want to read some letters. I've been getting a lot of letters from Doc Wallach's appearance on the bright side. Dr. Wallach and on Coast to Coast. I should have Dr. Wallach on the bright side, but he was on Coast to Coast last week. We get tons of letters every time. Doc goes on, or Dr. Glidden goes on, or I go on. George Norrie. So let me get to a couple of these letters if you guys are listening. Got one from, this one is from Wetold. I think he says his name. He says he's a coast-to-coast insider. He says his problem is varicose veins. Started a long time ago, got worse during pregnancy. Here's the deal with varicose veins. I get this question a lot. Varicose veins are hemorrhoids of the legs. Legs are hemorrhoids or varicose veins of the anal muscle. So they're the same idea. They're caused by clogging. They're caused by a backing up. If you have varicose veins, you got a digestive issue that involves clogging and backing up. And this notion of clogging is a generic way the body breaks down. Clogging always precedes degenerative disease. So varicose veins and hemorrhoids are signals that your body is starting to clog up. If you have them in conjunction with chronic degenerative disease, that's great news, because it means by moving the body around, improving circulation, you're going to eliminate and reduce, anyway, the symptoms of your chronic degenerative disease. And it's great that you can wear pressure stockings and do the mechanical things, but really what you want to think about is, why is the blood clogged in the first place? Clogged blood always needs to be backtracked first and foremost to the digestive system, and that means the food diary, and that means eliminating problem foods, and that means all the things we just talked about in terms of supporting the health of the bacteria in the intestine, fiber, as well as vegetables, ground up vegetables, vegetable juices, and then, of course, probiotics. Now, moving the body around is also important, and Witold says that his friend with the varicose veins is physically active, but you never know how physically active is active. Personally, I like a rebounder. A rebounder is awesome because you jump up and down and it doesn't put any stress on the body. A lot of times we don't do the exercises we need to do because it puts a heavy stress on the joints. And so it's uncomfortable, or it causes pain later on down the road, or inflammation down the road. But a rebounder allows you to bypass all of that. And so does an inversion device, one of those hanging devices. They're a little bit more complicated, of course, but they are really, really effective. If you're dealing with any heart disease problems, if you're dealing with any blood pressure problems in conjunction with your varicose vein issues, guaranteed you've got a blood circulation problem, but also probably you have an oxygenation issue. And that's where your deep breathing techniques come in. It sounds weird, right? Deep breathing for hemorrhoids, deep breathing for varicose veins. But when you understand the mechanism of clogging blood, it makes perfect sense. So practicing deep breathing techniques is also important. Eliminating problem foods, practicing your deep breathing techniques is all for varicose veins and hemorrhoids. And then using probiotics and fermented foods. And then, of course, making sure you're on the Healthy Start Pack to get your 90 essential nutrients, which are the baseline, the minimum wage, the basics that everybody needs, no matter what your health challenge is. Even if you don't have a health challenge, you can find out all about it at RightSideBen.com, PharmacistBen.com, or CriticalHealthNews.com. If you want to check out our Truth Treatment products, you can check out TruthTreatments.com. Thanks for listening, friends. Have an awesome, beautiful, spectacular, wonderful day. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.